I'm going to pose this question to you, and it's a pretty heavy question.
Number one factors that affects whether a kid's successful at school or not is it starts at home.
Today, we're diving into one of the most sensitive and controversial issues in California high school athletics: how institutions like the California Interscholastic Federation and the California Department of Education are approaching the question of males competing in female sports. In this powerful episode, we sit down with Jurupa Valley High School athletes: Madison McPherson, Alyssa McPherson, and Hadil Hazama, to discuss a controversy that has gained both statewide and national attention. These three athletes have filed a lawsuit against the CDE-CIF and the Jurupa Unified School District, alleging violations of Title IX and their constitutional rights after a male athlete was allowed to compete on girls' varsity teams and access female locker room facilities. You'll hear their first-hand accounts, stories of safety concerns, fairness, allegations of sexual harassment, and the personal and social consequences they say they faced for speaking out. They share their experiences competing alongside and against this athlete on the volleyball court and the track field. They also explain why they chose to go public, what that decision has meant for their lives, and how their school and district responded, or in their view, failed to respond. This case has sparked a broader debate across California and beyond, raising complex questions about fairness in girls' sports, student rights, and how schools navigate issues of gender identity. The outcome could have ripple effects nationwide. Our goal in this conversation isn't to attack or defend any institution. It's to listen, to hear directly from those at the center of the story, and to explore the larger conversation unfolding in our state.
Just wanted to preface the conversation by kind of giving a little background to how we got here. So I was at the CIF press conference in Long Beach about 3 weeks ago, and for the Save Girls Sports event, and I was there in line for getting tickets for people that want to speak, and just so happened that Madison and Hadil were in front of me, and I got to speaking with them, and I was like, hey, what school do you guys go to? And you're like, oh, Jurupa Valley. And I was like, Jurupa Valley? I know who you are. I've been following you on the news. I've seen your stories. I've seen your Instagram. I've seen these different things. Like, wow, you're those girls. I'm like, hey, I've been following this. Would you guys be interested in talking with me? I'm starting a podcast. Would you guys be willing to? And your mom said, yeah, she'd be willing to do it. She accepted my friend request on Instagram, which was pretty cool. Glad to be having this conversation with you. So that's kind of the background to how we got here. And then another thing I want to say to preface this conversation is, number one, I want this to be, it's a 100% unscripted conversation. There's no rehearsed answers or anything of that nature. And so whatever you want to say, please say. All right, so I'm going to do a little intro here for the guests on, what I've put together based on my research and understanding. So first of all, we'll start with the oldest athlete here. So we got Madison McPherson. You are currently a collegiate athlete playing volleyball. You were at Jurupa Valley last year. You're a volleyball player, track and field, and soccer. You were the team captain for volleyball, and you were a setter, and you're number 13 currently, and your longest triple jump is 32 feet 6 inches. All right. And then we got your younger sister, Alyssa, and you're 17. You're currently a senior at Jurupa Valley, and you're a two-sport athlete, volleyball and track and field. And you're currently a senior. And what else do I have? You're 17. Is that right?
Yeah, I actually played soccer too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. And then we got your bestie here, Hadil. I remember one of the interviews you said Alyssa's your best friend. So,
Yeah.
right. So we got Hadil Hazama. She's 17 as well. And you play two sports. You play track and field and volleyball as well. And yeah, that's right. You have a 4.3 GPA, and Alyssa has a 4.3 GPA, and Madison had a 4.0 GPA. So you're some serious scholars, serious athletes. So you guys are not your standard run of the mill, like, hey, I just maybe want to play a sport. And that's one of the big things of what you're going to talk about is like, you guys are high performing athletes. So that's what I got there. Okay. And then for Sonja Shaw, President Chino Valley Unified School District, running to be State Superintendent of Public Instruction. And she's the lady that, according to the media, kicked Tony Thurman out of a school board meeting. All right. Is that an accurate description, Sonia?
I would just say fierce mama bear trying to protect our girls, including these three beautiful athletes right here.
There you go. All right. I like it. And then we got Erin Mercino. She's legal counsel for Faith and Freedom. And she's on the call to kind of give us the legal perspective on what's going on, as well as to make sure I don't get myself in any trouble or get the girls in any trouble by talking about things we shouldn't talk about. Sound good?
Yeah.
All right. All right. Thank you. All right, cool. All right, so the first thing that I want to jump into here is just kind of jump right into it. So obviously, you three girls, you're high level athletes, high level academic performance. Where did it start? What is it that put you guys in this statewide spotlight, in this national spotlight that started calling attention to you? Can you kind of start us? What year did it happen? What was it? Why are you guys now like in the Fox News and why are you on social media, etc.?
So I think it kind of started whenever the male that was participating in volleyball first came in. They were a track athlete first, and then we heard like they were going to be participating in volleyball the following year. And I was again like captain of the team, and I had a conversation with this student, and it was like, I don't think this is fair. I don't think this is right. And then the school kind of was like pushing on to me and trying to give me punishments for it. And I had had that problem in track as well, the same like following season. But I think that that's how it kind of like got started was we saw I had like said something to start, and then the school had like was trying to give me punishments and push down on me. And so then the following year, like the whole reason that this became statewide was because I had just graduated, but then it was just getting worse and worse, and it was just getting more and more obvious. And then Alyssa and Hadil were like, enough's enough. Like, we can't keep doing this.
Okay. And is that like your same feelings as well, Alyssa and Hadil? Is that very similar sentiment?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And so I guess one of my questions is, I guess this kind of goes to legal counsel. I noticed that in your statement, you didn't use the person's name. You just said the male athlete. And I know that in this lawsuit, which we're going to talk about, it uses AH. Are we allowed to use the person's name? And can you tell me what the name we should be using? Because I know the person has a legal name and then they have an abbreviated name, but two letters. So legal, can you weigh in on that?
Yes, so in the complaints, whenever anyone is under the age of 18, then we have to use initials to respect the privacy of the individual.
Okay. So for this conversation, what name should they be using, or does it matter?
I think it's all right to use AH consistent with the complaint.
Okay. And so when you guys were raising these concerns, can you kind of give us what was the response from the school? Because I know that you guys spoke to assistant principals, coaches, etc. What was the sentiment coming from the school district?
I had a lot of conversations with the principal because I was like kind of close with her before this whole situation. So I felt comfortable talking to her, but as I continued having conversations with her about the situation, like I just felt like our side, like she would always be like, "Oh, we have to advocate for both sides, we have to respect privacy, we have to follow rules for both sides." I just feel like nothing ever happened for us and it was mainly one-sided. And I just feel like our privacy and like our safety wasn't put like I don't know, I just feel like it wasn't concerned enough and I feel like we were just put to the side and always brushed under the rug.
Right. And essentially, is it fair to say you two were essentially kicked off the volleyball team, correct? I saw a social media clip of you two at a volleyball game sitting in the stands. And it's my understanding that you two actually had to pay to get into that volleyball game because you were taken off the roster as a result of your being vocal about the issue. Is that correct?
Yeah, after we raised our concerns, we told our coach we don't want to play until our concerns are discuss, and our district never discussed it with us. Nothing, we never got any answers. So we were still on the team, but after that conversation, we were kicked out the group chats, and then we were finally put it back in after we told the principal, and she said that we'll still get our patches and stuff, but during the CIF game, we called our coach and asked her, or we texted her and was like, can we sit on the bench? Because previously she had asked us to tell her on our senior night if we're going to sit on the bench. So we wanted to be respectful and we asked the head if we could sit on the bench, and she said no, and I was confused as to why. And we had also emailed our principal, and she was like, oh, I wish you would have raised this concern earlier. Like, I was driving, I couldn't like answer the question. And then we found out later that we were taken off of the roster. So we did have to pay to get into CIF that game.
That's pretty sad. And I also recall, I think from one of maybe it was the legal, that there was a text exchange. I believe it was between Alyssa and the volleyball coach that basically you were taken off the text string, the text chat, and you were asked why. And then one of the responses in there towards the end was like, if you want to be a captain, then act like a captain. Was that you, Alyssa, that was directed at?
Yeah, that was me.
All right. Can you elaborate on what that was, how it made you feel, and kind of like what the outfall of that is?
Yeah, so when I texted her and I asked why me and Hadil had been removed from the group chat, she was just saying that she wasn't the one that did it and that another captain had did it. And I was just confused because I don't think a captain would just remove us without her permission.
Hmm.
And so I just asked her about it, and she was just telling me that if I'm gonna be a captain, I need to act like it. And I feel like if I shouldn't have to set aside my personal beliefs for to play a sport that I love, even like I shouldn't have to play with the male. Like I shouldn't have to just let that go because I'm a team captain.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
that it's not fair.
Right. Okay. And so now at this point, I think maybe I'd like to turn over to legal and say, okay, so as a result of their complaints, a legal suit was filed against the CIF, Jurupa Valley, California Department of Education. So this is a really big federal lawsuit. So for legal, can you kind of give us an overview of what this lawsuit is about and what the end game result is that you're trying to ask for as a result of the lawsuit?
Sure. So at kind of the most general level, I would say it's about protecting girls' sports and protecting girls from discrimination in their own sport, giving them the ability to have their own team, which is the entire purpose of Title IX. It was so women could have their own team, that they could be competitive in sports on their own women's team.
Mhm.
And it's also about protection of the conscience. Uh, it's always been throughout, all of First Amendment jurisprudence and equal protection jurisprudence that there shouldn't be this indoctrination and overcasting in the public schools where one viewpoint on an issue is allowed and the other is kicked off the team. No room for that speech, no room for those religious beliefs, no room at all for anything like that. That's not something that we've ever allowed until it seems like just recently. And
Mhm.
so we've brought six different legal claims, three under Title IX to uphold the original meaning of Title IX, one under the Equal Protection Clause, and then two under the First Amendment, free exercise of religion and freedom of speech.
Wow. Yeah, so I've been studying the lawsuit as well as statements made by the volleyball players, and it seems to me that like what's really going on here is you have a clash of federal law versus state law. So the state law being AB 1266, which basically, and I'll pull it up here in a little bit, which basically says that hey, students are allowed to use facilities and sports teams consistent with their gender identity, and it uses that term gender identity, whereas Title IX use the term sex. And so it seems like also from some of the things that girls have said is like the school was taking the position of like, hey, state law, and basically holding that up as a shield. And like, and I think there was even one of the quotes of one of the assistant principals saying like, hey, that's above my pay grade. And so is that essentially what's going on here is you have state law versus federal law and they're going to clash?
Yes, that's definitely part of the lawsuit. And the thing is, you don't have to take Title IX money as a state. But if you do take Title IX money, then you accept it with conditions. And one of those conditions, we believe, is that you have to act in accordance with the plain language that is in Title IX, which allows for separation of teams and separation of intimate spaces like bathrooms and locker rooms on the basis of biological sex.
Okay. So you're essentially asking for a federal court injunction telling the state to stop it and to basically have sports based on biological sex, and then also for damages. Is that essentially right? That's what's being asked for?
Yes, yes, you've
Okay.
been studying
Oh,
law here.
yeah. I kind of nerded out in the last couple of weeks, I'll be honest. Okay. All right. So the next thing I want to do here, I want to share my screen. And so since we're talking about the whole California AB 1266 and how that affects California, I want to then now kind of turn it over to Sonia to get your thoughts on that. So I'm going to screen share here. One of the things I wanted to pull up here was that AB 1266 and kind of talk about this because I'm a person of definitions and understanding what things say and what things mean. Okay. So a little summary here. Boys competing in girls sports. The main statute is California Education Code 1221.5, AB 1266. Most commonly quoted section states students shall be permitted to participate in sex segregated school programs and activities, including athletic teams and competitions, consistent with his or her gender identity, irrespective of the gender listed on the pupil's records. Okay, it goes on to say some other things. And so for me, like, okay, cool. The very number one, the first thing I think about gender identity. Well, what does that mean? So let's go get the definition of gender identity. So here it is. So like here's some more statements. This is from the California PRISM training that teachers were required to take. Some more statements about gender identity. But then here in the California Code, Health and Safety Code, here's the definition for gender identity. And it says gender identity means a person's identity based on the individual's stated gender identity without regard to whether the self-identified gender accords, and then it goes on for like 4 more lines. Okay, so for me, the first thing I see there is a circular definition. I literally see the words gender and identity multiple times in the definition of gender identity. And so to me, a circular definition's a problem. And then second of all, it basically seems to just state a bunch of stereotypes. And in fact, when you look at here closer, when it talks about what gender is versus sex, gender just basically seems to be a whole bunch of stereotypes. And it seems to be this is the problem. This is why there's an issue, is because of this law. And so I guess my question is to Sonia is like, what do you think about when you see this California AB 1266 and this definition and how this is affecting girls sports? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I have many thoughts. First of all and foremost, I want to thank these girls for standing up and being brave because I don't think that they should have ever been on the front lines. It makes me upset, not only as a mother, but a school board president, that we have children having to fight for basic rights. When it comes to AB 1266, I believe that 1266 violates federal law, and federal law supersedes state law. So there we are, right there in plain sight. Now, school board members and unfortunately the majority of our legislators have a choice right now to either stand with federal law and what's right, to not take away someone else's rights and give special privileges to somebody else. And in this case, we're taking away the rights of these girls. And when I say we, I'm saying the state of California, and giving them special privileges to boys. That needs to stop. So if you ask me where I stand on this, I think 1266 is violating federal law. And I think those of us in positions where we can prevent these girls' rights from being taken away need to make a stance, and we need to say no. And whether it comes with harassment, lawsuits, whatever it is from the state, so be it. Because in the meantime, we have girls being sexually harassed. We have girls being their rights and their opportunities being stripped away. And they have endured horrendous things that should have never, ever happened on adults' watch. So Matthew, to me, AB 1266, the only reason why it still exists is because unfortunately we have a bunch of legislators, the majority in California, that don't do the right thing. It doesn't mean that it's legal. It just needs to be challenged. And that's what I'm grateful that a lot of people are linking arms to challenge. A lot of these girls and their parents will end up in inboxes like mine and Sophia's and Jessica's. And that's where we're able to link them with great people like Advocates of Our Faith and Freedom. I remember when I first got an email from Jurupa Valley, one of the moms, it was directly to, I had no other, hesitation than to give them to them, because I know they'll take care of them as far as legally. But in the meantime, us school board members, us parents, us adults, us, people in positions of authority and in any way of decision making need to say no. We're not going to let this AB 1266, again, I feel like 1266 is violating that. And let's go back to the ideology. This is an ideology. Why are we pushing an ideology and making it the rule of the land? I don't think that's correct, right? We say that, that Christianity, which, that is my faith, or whatever other people's faith is their ideology. Well, why is this ideology ruling? Why does this have to rule over everything that we do in lawmaking? And I think that's absolutely needs to be challenged.
Okay. And then Aaron Mercino, my question is, in terms of that definition of gender identity and gender, have you butted heads with that terminology from a legal standpoint, prior to this, of like challenging this? Like, how is this held up in court? How does this make sense? Like, for instance, I was talking with Maribel Munoz, their mom, and she was saying that like in CIF, when a kid applies to be in school or do sports, there's only like sex. They're not having to check a box to be like, my gender identity is this. So like, how is it that a kid can even be this kid play in volleyball when there is no application stating what is your gender identity or test to prove that your gender identity is one or the other? Like, for instance, can I just identify right now as a female and hey, I'm good to go? Like, how's that work from a legal standpoint?
Yeah, it's very problematic, and I think that we saw just how problematic it is during the Supreme Court argument in the Title IX case, where it was a very clear question asked by Justice Alito: what's the definition of sex? And the individuals who were representing the trans athletes said, I'm not going to provide a definition for you.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that would appear to be a problem.
That's definitely a problem, because normally the law is based on words that have significant meaning, and that significant meaning gives direction to how things are applied. So I think that you really hit the nail on the head with saying this is confusing. How do you apply this practically? And I think that it's just extremely difficult. And I think it's especially difficult when one side of the issue is arguing for something that they're not defining.
Sure. Okay.
Matthew, I do want to point out with Jurupa Valley, their school district as a whole has failed these girls. I remember when I first heard this story, when it was track and field, and then, eventually we heard about the volleyball players. I quickly submitted a Title IX violation complaint to the district. Now, whether they agree with the Title IX complaint or not, they actually have the responsibility to put it through investigation. And they quickly closed it out and told me, sorry, we're closing this out. And I was like, hold on a second, what's your decision? I don't care if I agree or disagree with your decision. You have to investigate this. And that's when I did have to, get advocates. They didn't represent me, but I did get them to respond on my behalf. And they reopened the claim. Here we are over a year later, and I still don't have their investigation final, because they say they're waiting for XYZ from the, federal government or whatever it may be. In the meantime, they have all of these violations that are happening to these girls, and they're allowing it. I do want to point out the direct responsibility is on them, because they could have stopped this a long time ago. Whether you're on either side, there's different things you can offer in different situations, right? First of all, it should be on biological sex. Make the boy and the boys play in their own sports teams. And when it comes to restrooms and locker rooms, if they don't want to go in their own biologically male, labeled restrooms, then give them the single stalls. That's a law in California. We have to have single stalls available that are not gender specific. And I don't like that word, but sex specific, right? So in me saying this, the direct responsibility is on districts like Jurupa Valley. They are responsible for the harm that is caused by these girls. And I hope these girls get a chance to say the things that have happened to them, because it should mortify every person in California. And every person in California has a choice to make, when it comes to making sure the people making these decisions are the best ones in those seats.
Okay, so now I want to kind of dig into some of the details associated with this lawsuit. So I read through it. I think it was 51 pages, a lot of information, there's even tables, there's pictures. So very powerful. And so it seems like the lawsuit's kind of broken down into three things. You got safety issues, you got fairness issues, you got sexual harassment issues, you got retaliation issues. So there's a lot here. And so under the safety issues, some of the things I noted was Alyssa was hit in the face by a volleyball that caused severe pain, left marks on her face. There was no concussion protocol offered, just offered ice. And the assistant principal apparently did nothing about it to remedy the situation. And then also in line 160, which I think I'm going to quote here in a second, of the lawsuit, in around this period, AH boasted to AM and another student that he had recently caused 3 female volleyball players to suffer possible concussions. Under the topic of fairness, AH track performance demonstrates his biological advantage within girls' track and field team. For example, on or about March 2025 at the Rancho Cucamonga Classic, AH won girls' varsity long jump with a distance of approximately 18 feet, a result that would have placed only 20th among male competitors. Okay, so I'm a numbers person, so that jumped out at me, you know, a lot there. Was jumping 18 feet, getting first place as a female, which would have gotten 20th place as a male. Another one that jumped out at me was on the triple jump, and I believe this was against Madison. So Madison jumped 29 feet 6 inches. AH jumped 35 feet in the same event. So a differential of 5.5 feet on the triple jump, which I'm not a track person, but to me, a 5.5 foot difference between a first place and a second place, I think that's pretty much unheard of. And just goes to show that an athlete like you training year round there's no way a high level competitive female can catch up to a male that is less than an average male that would have gotten no medals, no media attention with a 5.5 foot differential. So can you girls talk about how your feelings on the matter of the physical advantage, the fairness issue?
Yeah, so when it came to track, I tried to keep up at first. I was like, no, like I can, but it just kind of caps out. Like it gets to a point where it's just like it's not the same, that it's never gonna be the same. It's never gonna be fair. Like, and it's almost like I wanted to keep my ego like, yeah, I can, but I shouldn't have to. Like I shouldn't have to get to that point. And I mean, 5.5 feet between first and second place is just like it speaks for itself. So I think like I decided going into my senior year, I didn't want to do track because I didn't want to deal with that. And I get very competitive and I didn't want to keep getting second place on like unfairly. Like I would have gotten first place in a lot of those events. So going to my senior year, I just didn't want to do it because I didn't want to have to deal with that.
Wow. Yeah, I remember. I think I heard you say that in an interview that you just chose not to do track your senior year because of that. And that's heartbreaking. That made me super sad to hear that. Like, you should never have to hear from any female athlete saying, you know what, done. I'm the hell with it. Like, it's terrible. So I know, Alyssa, you're a senior now. How are you feeling? Are you feeling the same way? Like, are you going to follow your sisters and be like, you know what? I know. I think for volleyball, you got kicked off the team. How is it going to be for track and field?
So me and Hadil actually graduated early,
That's right. Yes.
yeah, so we can't participate in track and field.
Okay. I knew Hadil had graduated early. I didn't know you had graduated early.
Yeah, we both graduated early.
Oh, wow. Okay. So no more sports for either of you.
Are you
And
able to say why?
we graduated early because we were just facing so much retaliation by the school and by the girls, and it was just a harsh environment to go to school every morning. Me and Hadil never wanted to go to school, and we just decided like it's best if we graduate early so we don't have to continue to go to a school where we're not protected.
Yeah, every day I'm walking to class and some girls are cussing at me or some girls are giving me the dirtiest looks. And like my last week or two of school, I was walking to class and one of my old teammates, like she passed by me directly and she was like, die. And I was like, oh. And even the person behind me looked to see if they heard that right. And I reported it to the school. And of course, Jurupa Valley District does not know how to take care of their stuff. So I got no response with that, even after I went multiple times to the office to ask. like what's going on with the situation. And my mom was really upset because that's not something you should play around with and not something I should have had to face just because I voiced my opinion on something that's the truth and that is biological.
Yeah, I saw your video that you put out. It was on Fox News. I think it was just earlier this month. And you said the same thing. And I think you also said that someone called you a racist or a white supremacist,
Yeah,
something
white
along, and a transphobe. Is it,
transphobic, a white supremacist. I'm a coward with it. I have no individuality and I'm a sheep and I just follow the crowd. I'm like, where are you guys getting this from?
you are anything but a sheep, I'll tell you that. That's for sure. You are not a sheep. You're a leader, for sure. Okay. All
Can you
right.
imagine though, high school is hard enough, and to be walking just in the hallway and get a death threat in high school and then feel so unprotected,
Hmm.
so
Yeah.
wrong.
I've actually got a death threat. I think it was last year or the year before.
Nice.
One of the girls on the volleyball team, she said that she wanted to put a gun to my head. Yeah. And the school didn't do anything.
Um,
Yeah.
I'm sure they
Everyone heard.
wouldn't.
Everyone heard, the whole team heard.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they just did nothing. Did they even make her write an apology? No,
No.
nothing.
Wow.
Wow.
That's Jurupa Valley
That's what
District.
provided for you.
Wow, thank you. I really appreciate you sharing that. So I think that actually segues into the next thing I want to do here. So I'm going to try to screen share over here. All right, so now I want to talk about some of the items that kind of fall under the umbrella of sexual harassment. So can you guys see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see, 147. Okay. All right, so I'm going to read some screenshots that I took from your guys' report or your complaint. So, on or about August 16th, 2024, during a match against Hillcrest High School, plaintiff Munoz, who routinely filmed games, observed and recorded that AH regularly placed his hands on plaintiffs and their teammates' buttocks during play and team huddles. Attached is a true and correct image of AH, number 4, with his hands on AM's and HH buttocks. And so I'm not going to try to zoom in or I'm going to mess it up. Um, and I'll read one more and then I'll ask you guys kind of your thoughts, your feelings on this. Plaintiffs felt violated and objectified by AH's repeated inappropriate touching. In addition to experience physical discomfort, the locker room and during team activities, plaintiffs have been subjected to repeated and unwelcome sexual comments and remarks in the athletic environment, creating an offensive atmosphere. In August 2023, during a summer practice, AM dove for a ball and landed on her chest. When she remarked about the pain, AH interjected, "Right, it hurts my boobs too when I land on them." This comment made by a male mocked AM's anatomy and left her embarrassed and uncomfortable. All right, so I'd like to get so both of those were directed at Alyssa, and also the butt tapping thing was Hadil. So I'd like to get your thoughts on that.
Um, so in volleyball, it's pretty common like to congratulate each other with like a butt tapping or just something silly, you know? But it's common for girls, but when you realize that that's a biological male, it makes you really think like, why would you let someone do that to yourself? And it's kind of degrading after like I really sat down and thought about what had happened. So that was my perspective at least.
Okay.
Yeah, the same for me too. I felt like it was just so normalized. So I was just like, oh, it's okay. Like my mom would tell me, like, that's not okay, Lissa. In my head, like, I was just like, oh, it's normal. It's okay. But it's not.
Mhm.
And it shouldn't be normalized. That's a male.
Yeah.
And it's just not right. And especially because he has his hands in two different, areas because one hand's higher and one's lower because me and Hadil are very different heights
I
to begin with.
noticed that. I've
Yeah, so he's touching our butts on purpose.
It's not like it was your back.
Yeah, like
And we shouldn't have had to been brainwashed to think that's okay. And for like the adults, like Alyssa's mom and my mom even, to say, like, why are you letting that happen? Like,
Mhm.
what?
Yeah, I
and
was literally sorry. I was literally just saying that to Jessica like 30 minutes ago. Like he's the tallest guy on the team and you're the shortest girl on the team. You would have to literally have to put some effort into getting your hand down that low.
yeah, And regarding the incident where I dove for a ball and I like said ow, like that hurt because I landed wrong, and he made that remark. I was just like, I just stood there in shock because I was like, there's no
There's
way
no
he just
way.
said that. And then everyone got quiet and just started staring, and it was just so awkward and uncomfortable.
There's been multiple occasions like that where just everyone looks around and was like, did that really just
Yeah.
like be said out loud? Like,
Yeah.
especially like when, this was last few practices, there was a bunch of like random comments that we would just stare at each other and be like, we gotta tell Mara about this.
Okay, now I got to ask, you're saying these comments are being made around other people, and so other people are hearing this. Are you the only three people that have filed any type of complaints against this, or are there other people standing up?
I mean, there's people standing up in secret. Like they'll
Yeah.
say something like, I think it's wrong too, but they don't want to be in the front lines. They don't want to
Yeah.
be known.
I'd say like 95% of the varsity team, at least this year, were in correlation with it. And I'm assuming there's a couple of them that I can like kind of tell that they don't exactly align with it, but no one wants to go against it because look what happened to us, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I'll be like, okay, I'm just gonna be respectful, I'm gonna be nice, and I'm gonna be quiet, you know? I don't wanna do anything about this because again, it's state law. I'm not a lawyer, I can't exactly do anything about it. But now that we did like get legal, it showed that like it was just crazy and it was sad that we had to go through it and we had to stand up, and even the people who did support our side and like agreed that it wasn't safe or it took away privacy, everyone is scared to say anything because of the backlash that they got. I was scared to get backlash. I finally spoke up and look, I'm getting death threats, like
Yeah.
it's just sad. And a lot of girls, especially people from track, a lot of the boys sports, like they all tell me like, don't think you're in the wrong, don't like down yourself for it because everyone knows you're right. Like it
Mm-hmm.
just, I've even had teachers,
Supervisor.
supervisors, people from the district, a lot of people from teachers from around the district, elementary school teachers, middle school teachers, a lot of them have reached out to me and said, I'm so proud of you. Like I can't stand up because then I'm gonna get fired too. How sad is that they have to be scared to risk their job just to speak to the truth, and it's really sad, honestly.
That's terrible, and that's super sad to hear that. But I don't want to make this about me, but I'm just gonna say, like, I'm on the school board, and like I'll get similar messages. I'll have teachers that'll message me on Facebook, and they'll send me a screenshot of something that's highly inappropriate that's going on. And they'll be like, "Hey, Matt, you got to see this. You got to see this." And in my head, I'm thinking like, "Cool, well, go to public comment, post it to your face, talk about it." Oh, no, 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 I won't do that. I don't want to get fired. I don't. But you can do it, Matt. And it's like, yeah, but that's part of the problem. That's a big part of the problem is because too many people are too scared, they're too cowardly, and then that puts all the pressure on people like yourself. Now the whole spotlight's on you, whereas like if people were standing up in general and talking about it, you wouldn't be standing out like a sore thumb getting death threats, right?
Yeah.
That's more.
Well, so many of the teams that were playing against the girls' volleyball team forfeited the games. So I think that that's interesting.
No, that's good that you pointed that out. What is so sad, everyone says, don't play, don't play, pull the girls, pull the girls. Okay. Last, season, how many teams pulled? I want to say almost the majority of them pulled, right? Out of the game. And how many girls got hurt and actually said, I'm not going to do this and I'm not going to play? Then what happened? It still continued. It still continues because it's allowed. And while I am appreciative of all these girls and all these people taking a stance, until we actually get this solved and we have more people in the decision making roles make the right decisions, these poor girls are suffering something they never ever ever should have or had to go through. And I just want to quickly point out the butt tapping celebration and then the picture of his hands on your guys' butts. It breaks my heart that those things are normalized because that's not normal. And I do want to point out, even if we play along with their fairy tale of saying boys can be girls, boys on boys and girls on girls still have sexual harassment that needs to be addressed by school districts. So I am really frustrated that the school district is just pushing it to the side. But I'm glad that you guys have advocates because there's nothing that angers me more to see that they're just pushing it, pushing it, pushing it. I mean, I still think regardless, like the death threats and everything, that's not a joke. Like, how did we get it to a point in society where adults won't stand up for children being harmed and hurt and threatened, and everyone's afraid to lose their job? Why would you want a job? And when you see kids being hurt right in front of your eyes, at some point you have to be a Jessica Tapia. You have to be somebody who's willing to give it all. You have to be you girls. So while I appreciate you guys, still my heart hurts that you guys have to do this, but just know you're definitely making a lot of adults reconsider them having to do the right thing. So thank you.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to screen share here. I'm going to read just a few more things from the report here, get your thoughts, because one of these like really stood out with me. It's like, I definitely got to bring this up. Okay, so line 51. In October 2023, before a home volleyball game, AH complained to plaintiff AM that he was having cramps and on his period. This statement caused shock and discomfort to AM because AH's statements is a mere fantasy and marginalizes the pain shared by most women. On or about July 15, 2024, plaintiffs McPherson and AM hosted a team bonding event for the girls' varsity volleyball team at their home. During the gathering, several girls engaged in casual conversation regarding their menstrual cycles. At that time, AH interjected and stated, "I don't have to worry about that. I have a custom coochie." Now, I had to stop there because I thought, like, okay, maybe I read that wrong. Like, wait, hold on, what? Can you girls elaborate? Like, how did this make you feel? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, it was so incredibly uncomfortable. I've never been so uncomfortable in my own home. We were, all the girls were in the pool in our bathing suits. AH was wearing like spandex and like a sports bra. I don't know. But all the girls were just like, it was just separated. Like it felt separated. And then I just felt like H was trying to come in and I don't know, it just was very uncomfortable. But then we were all talking about like, oh, our first periods and like silly little stories of how it happened. And I think that's like a conversation that a lot of girls have more than once in their life. Like it's commonly talked about. And then the student, you know, was like outside of the circle and then like steps, like swims in and is like, yeah, I don't have to worry about that. I got a custom coochie. And everyone is just looking at each other and it's dead silent, like it's so uncomfortable and then it was just like very awkward. And then he left like pretty soon after that because everyone just was like had nothing to say. And mind you, like these girls support like are brainwashed and truly like support that because they don't know like and they are being brainwashed. But the girls that were on the team were still friends with him, but still are just like, whoa, like just so many uncomfortable comments like that that just really open your eyes. And they just the other girls that were on the team didn't want to be aware of it. Like, I don't know, it was just incredibly uncomfortable, that situation, and it just sticks out. It
Yeah.
also doesn't make sense to me how 1 month he has periods and he has cramps, and the next month he doesn't have to worry about that because he has a custom coochie. It doesn't make sense. It's not lining up.
I actually thought the exact same thing. Like, that doesn't even make any sense. Which actually, that kind of segues into the next question I wanted to ask. And this is a question I guess you maybe have an opinion on, maybe you don't. But for me, in my mind, I'm asking myself the question of why. Like, why is it that AH presents himself as a girl? What's the motive? Is it to get medals? Because obviously, if you're jumping and you get 20th place, you're not going to get any medals. But if you jump as a girl, you get first place. Is that the reason? Is it because of emotional trauma? Is it because of to get attention? Is it because he actually thinks he's a girl? Or is it and one of the things that actually stands out to me, and I think this was a conversation you had with Sophia, was that apparently a quote that attributed to him is that he was actually like making fun of non-binary people by saying, "Why don't they just effing pick a gender? I effing picked a gender." So if that's how he feels, then it seems as though he's kind of like doesn't even necessarily think that he is a girl. He just chose a gender. So my question to you girls is, and if you have an opinion and care to express your opinion, do you have any feelings on why this is happening and why he presents as a girl?
We can speculate, but the purpose of the lawsuit, we want to make sure that the harm that is being caused to these girls is put out there first and foremost, out in front, because it seems like in the conversation nationally, people aren't really delving into what does it feel like for these girls? What have they been through? What
Right.
have they had to suffer? And so I think we could try to crawl into the mind of other people, but I think with this lawsuit, what we really are trying to do is say, look at, here is the story of three brave, amazing young women and what they have had to go through. And I think the focus needs to be on that instead of trying to speculate as to why someone is doing something. None of us can crawl inside the mind of another person, but they can share their firsthand account of what they've survived and gone through.
Right, makes sense. And I guess at the end of the day, it doesn't even matter. It makes no difference. If you're a male, you're a male. You're a girl, you're a girl. It doesn't matter what the motive is, I suppose.
And I think too, Matt, you got to remember, take away AH. It's just the next one in line that's going to do this to other girls, right? So
Right.
again, I agree with Aaron. It's not about these boys. People need to get those boys and address that help. But right now, where we need to put all hands on deck is to figure it out for these girls and girls going forward on how to prevent this from going on. Because again, what they endured is diabolical. And that's the only word that I can ever think of, because they should never have had to do this or go through this.
Yeah. Then the last thing that, in terms of the lawsuit that I want to touch on is the retaliation aspect of it. So one thing here I put in my notes is when plaintiffs AM and AH most recently informed their coach that they were uncomfortable sharing the volleyball court and locker room with a male student, the coach retaliated by removing them from the team group chats and communications and telling one of them, if you want to be a captain and a member of our team, then be one, and then warned by principal that if girls said anything, they would be suspended for bullying. So I think we'd already touched on this first one, but in regards to being potentially suspended for bullying, can you elaborate on that? Was that actually said, and were either of you ever suspended on the count of bullying?
No, not necessarily, but I mean, there has been talks. So she's like, "Oh, like don't forget to be respectful. Like you still have to be nice, stuff." And obviously, that's not a problem for any of us because we are respectful. This isn't directed towards one person to attack anyone. It's just, it's not right what we're going through. So that was more of our concern, and I don't see where they thought we were bullying anyone because we really weren't. So it's just sad that they had to even say that anyways, like to think that we would go that low, which, we wouldn't. So, none of us have actually like we've gotten like suspended or anything because why would we're like top students of our class, but there's no need for us to be
Right.
suspended.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
but definitely Madison has been the administration has told her that if she says anything, she's going to be suspended for bullying. Yeah, they threatened me. They also threatened me about when I was first like graduating my senior year, they had threatened me that if I continued to speak out, then I could lose my opportunities at the University of San Francisco where I was playing. So they were trying to threaten me in that sense, and they were saying, you have a lot to lose. So I had that conversation with the principal that I have a lot to lose and that, you know, something could happen where I wouldn't work out at the University of San Francisco. So pretty much threatening me in a sense that like she could try to do something to change my future. So it wasn't like direct in that sense, but that's how I think anybody would have
Yeah.
taken it.
Yeah.
I think that's so crazy because how are you gonna try and go out your way to threaten us, to suspend us? But when we file formal reports about incidents that's going on, multiple incidents going on, you know, they either lose her reports or they don't address it or they just pretend it didn't happen. I'm like, I'm going through this daily. You guys cannot pretend that it's not happening, It's not just me. It's girls in the school. It's girls all across California, girls all across the United States, everywhere. This is an issue going on globally, and they fail to see it and they fail to address us, even though they say they want to protect both sides, which they clearly aren't doing because they honestly, it feels like they don't care. They are telling me to, oh, go in the nurse's office, which is across campus, to go change, or if I don't feel comfortable, like I'll find somewhere else. I was changing in the volleyball locker room for some time just because I was scared someone would walk in on like a man would walk in on me and see me change, and I can't change in front of biological men or men in general. So that was just a bunch of small issues that they just keep rushing and thinking that it's okay, and it's really not. And it's so sad that I had to go through that. And I'm like, oh, okay, it's fine, whatever. Until like, I grow up and I think I'm like, how could I let that happen to myself? It's so degrading to women and it's so sad. And it's not just us that's gonna go through it. It's people all like in the future if not this doesn't change. I've seen multiple other girls. Me and Alyssa and Madison have contacted with multiple girls who've gone through similar situations. And again, nothing is happening. And it's so sad that we have to be the ones to face it because the adults can't. They're too coward. They call me a coward, but they're the one who can't even stand up for what's right?
Yeah, and I think it's also just a problem with them saying, like, oh, protect trans rights, protect trans rights. What about my rights? What about the rights of every single girl in that locker room?
Yeah.
What about their rights? Why are our rights less important?
Yeah.
Why do the majority that go through that locker room or that go through those problems have to be put down to protect one person's,
Yeah.
two people, three people? Like, why are they more important than we are? Why can't there be some sort of balance? And then you want to say the compromise is, oh, well, then you can go change if you're not comfortable.
What
Why?
about him?
Why? What about them? Why does the majority have to change and do other things and accommodate than two, three people? And it's like I don't hate anybody. I don't want anybody to think that I hate them for who they are, whatever they're going through. I don't want anybody to think I hate
Yeah.
them for who they are, but I shouldn't have to compromise my rights.
Because of who you think you are.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I got a question here that I wrote out, and it's a pretty heavy question to you. But I created this question based off of a lot of things I've heard people say that I guess you would say are pro-trans. So, for instance, at that CIF press conference that we were all at about 3 weeks ago, we listened to probably 10 people speak about why this boy should be in girls sports and why other boys should be in girls sports. And so I listened to that, and the Prism State training. And so I put together this question here, and so I'm going to read it to you, and I'd like to get your thoughts on it. So, playing devil's advocate. It's your job as a good teammate to respect every athlete's identity. You need to make sure each athlete feels validated and supported. Sports are meant to be an inclusive environment where every athlete can feel safe. Sports are for everyone. You need to work on acceptance within yourself and be open-minded and respectful. Discriminating against a marginalized group of people is bigoted, transphobic, and should never be tolerated. Trans rights are human rights. What are your thoughts?
I want to say right off the bat, we're not kicking trans, or I'd say males, off of females. We're not kicking them out of sports. We're telling them you should play in your biological section because that's what you were born. You can't change the fact that XX does not equal XY. It says it on multiple shirts, and I don't know how much more it has to get out there for people to understand that it's just about, like science. You can't change that. No one is trying to hate you. I have been teammates with this person since my freshman track year. We're same graduate year. I've been there since the beginning. We've been there together since the beginning. Same positions in volleyball, same events in track. And I've never been disrespectful. We were teammates. I'm not gonna disrespect you. I don't care who you are. Do whatever you want. But the fact that other people are being affected and hurt because of it, that's the problem. And people always say, oh, you're transphobic, you're this, you're that, you're evil. Like, I'm just saying the truth. I'm voicing my opinion. I'm not attacking you for who you are. I'm not giving out death threats. And it just things like that where they don't understand, like, we're individuals too. We have experiences too. And we're just trying to show you our story so you can understand how serious this really is and how many people have been affected of it. And we're not trying to be disrespectful to anyone. We're just trying to show you that it's not fair. It takes away people's privacy and it's not okay.
How come we're not upset with a male joining a female team and calling that person misogynist? It's the same sort of reasoning, the name calling. So sports, it's not determined by gender identity. Sports doesn't really care about gender identity. It cares about, like the girls were saying, biology, physiology. It cares how hard a ball is being spiked at the other team member. There's a reason why Title IX was passed into law. And it's because without it, girls did not have a fair opportunity. And so why are we taking away a fair opportunity now? I think that whole idea, we're not trying to exclude anyone from participating in sports. A person is welcome to participate in sports. They just can't take away the opportunity for girls to succeed in sports. And that's really the issue. And I would hope that everyone really kind of focuses on that real issue that is creating real harm.
Absolutely. I agree, Erin. And if you take any competitive level, including the Olympics and going all the way down, no woman would be delusional enough to say that the males don't have an advantage, right? That's why exactly Title IX was created, to give us the opportunities, to give our daughters the opportunities going forward. Because if you take the males spot and you put it compared to the males, the ones that are competing in girls, they're mediocre. You put them in the girls, obviously, we would never dispute that they have an advantage. No one would ever say that they don't have an advantage over us. Of course they do. Look at, we're seeing 6 foot differences. That's insane. But it's also appropriate if you compare it from a male to a female, right? And I just go back to, again, you hit it when you said, why isn't everybody upset that this is happening to girls? I think through your guys' story, you will have more people that are aware of it, because as I go across California, a lot of people are not even aware that boys are allowed in the girls' restrooms here in California. And that's the reality. The majority don't even think that that's happening. But through your guys' voices, it's waking up people. And I just pray that it continues to do that and spreads, and we have more people fighting the good fight.
Yeah. And so my next question was actually to you, Sonja, as well. So what is your advice to other student athletes like these girls, other parents like Maribel Munoz, when they find themselves in this situation that they're in? What do you tell those students? What do you tell those parents?
There's a lot, but just like some of these girls' parents that ended up in my inbox and we were able to connect them with resources, don't feel isolated. Don't feel like you're in the wrong. Don't feel like that's the system created to make you feel like you are the one wrong. You are not wrong. You are right. You should be having these equal, fair, safe opportunities, you know? So I would say reach out to the voices that you see that may be loud, because those of us that are in this and that have been in this, we have some resources available for those. Title IX complaints. Guys, do not give up on those. I'm talking federal level, state level, and your school district level. Those need to be filed every single time, and it does not have to be from the athlete themselves. We could do it on behalf of the athlete, okay? So utilize that every single time it happens. I encourage everybody, file it with the district, file it with the state, and then file it with the federal government through the Department of Ed. Do not give up on filing those, because we just saw Jurupa Valley and Placentia Yorba Linda, where a young lady reached out and said there was a boy in her locker room. Both of them are now being investigated federally. Do not give hope on these things, because we're going to continue to push. We're going to continue to push those that are in the elected positions to do the right thing. We also are trying to get school board members elected all across California. So parents, pay attention to those things. Make sure that's the first question you ask. Will you stand up for our girls? Because I don't even care at this point if you have people that say they'll do the right thing. I want them committed. They're going to stand up for the protection of these girls. And if it's violating state law, look, I'm not here to tell anybody to break law, but I will go again. If I have federal law and I have state law, I'm going to follow the federal law. And I took an oath to protect these girls. They have rights, right? So do not give up hope. My only thing to these girls is, at a time in history, there's going to be books written about you. There already is books written, and I don't want to get teary-eyed, and it hurts me that those books have to be written, but your courage is spreading. Trust me, it is. And as much as people are quiet and silent, you have one more that might be just vocal and loud that joins the fight, that joins the lawsuit. You guys seen, a couple of girls before, we have the Sterling and we have Caitlin and we have all those that are connected to Advocates for Faith and Freedom. And just know there's people fighting for you guys. And please, when you feel sad, just reach out to those of us that we can just surround you with prayer, because you need prayer. You need protection. This is to me, I am a believer. This is a spiritual battle, and everything that the enemy can do, he's going to try to do to take you out of this fight, because they know you're right over the target. Believe me, they do. Right. And just think, once we get this huge win, you're going to be celebrated decades and years on for just doing the right thing by other people and other daughters in the future. So I love you guys.
Oh,
Again, I have your back.
oh. All right, so I'm going to say something here, and then I'll give you girls the last word. If anything you want to say is your last thing. So a couple things I wanted to say. So first of all, I want to say thank you to everyone for being a part of the conversation. Like I know it's not easy to get all of you together, and I know I'm very busy and you have a lot going on. So for you to come together and have this conversation, it means a lot to me, but not so much to me, to every single girl that's affected by this issue and every single girl to come that you'll never know that you're going to do good work for making sports right for them. So, I mean, I really believe that you are changing history right now. And I'll talk about that in a second. And so, thank you. I think the world thanks you. And so, something I want to say here is that, in my opinion, one of the most important videos I've ever seen in my whole life is a video on YouTube, and it's called The Lone Nut. And I encourage everybody to go watch that video, watch it 5 times. And what it is, it starts with a shirtless man dancing at a music festival, all out there by himself in the middle of the grass, no one around, and he's out there dancing. He's getting after it, might be on drugs, doesn't matter, but he's dancing and he's having a good time. And then there's nobody else out there. But here comes along a second person. Now there's two people. The lone nut embraces him as an equal throughout their dancing together, having a good time. Here comes the third person. Now there's 3 of them out there. Okay. Now here comes 2 more people. There's 5. Now here comes 3 more people. There's 8. Then this floodgates start opening and people are just rushing out there to go be a part of this dancing extravaganza that's going on. And people have to make a decision like, okay, well, if I get out there soon, I'm going to be part of the movement. But if I wait too long, I'm going to be on the sidelines. And this video, well, it's all about people out there dancing, but the narration behind it is it's really about how to create a movement. And there's actually companies that use this video as an example of how to create a movement. And I honestly believe it's probably the best video in the world on how to create a movement. And that guy was the lone nut. He was the lone nut that started it. And I think there's a strong argument to be made that you girls, your parents, you girls are the lone nut. You are the crazy ones that are willing to stand out there and say, all right, I'll do it. I'll take the arrows. I'll take the hate. I'll take the name calling. I'll take all this. Not because you want to, but because you know it's the right thing to do. And you've started a movement and you don't know it, but you've actually encouraged me because I was watching your guys' stuff on Fox News and Instagram and social media like a year ago about Jurupa Valley. And I'm like, yeah, happy. This good. They took the other team forfeited to them. Good. The other team forfeited to them. And like, I was glad to see that. You guys are encouraging me. But it's sad as well because that was your team. Your team lost out on their season. You lost out on being a prospect for college because you now didn't have a season. But you guys, you are the lone nut, so to speak, that are encouraging other people. And like some of the other people I think about, like say Rosa Parks, like Rosa Parks was the lone nut. She was willing to stand up in 1955 and say, you know what? No, not today. You're not going to send me to the back of the bus. Like, and now what? Now her name is super famous. Everybody knows Rosa Parks. Her name's in history and as it should be. And so I hope one day, 70 years from now, just like we remember Rosa Parks, remember your name, that Hadil, Alyssa, and Madison, they stood their ground. They weren't going to back down. And you know what? They changed things for the rest of the world. Like I hope that's the case, and I think that very well could be the case. And so there you go. There's my lone nut. And so it's same with like Riley Gaines being the lone nut and like women's swimming, saying like, no, I'm not going to stand for it. And I would even say there's an argument to be made that Sonja Shaw, she's a bit of a lone nut in the world of school board politics. That inspired me to run for school board because I saw what she was standing for, and I'm like, yeah, 100%. And she's taking the hate, getting the death threats, getting all this, just like Adil, getting the death threats. But you know what? She was crazy enough to stand up for a lot of things where a lot of people are now being like, I love what she's saying. I love what they're doing. And you know what? I think you're going to continue to see people continuing to run to your side and run to this and be like, yeah, we're with you. When maybe they weren't really with you all at first, but so there you go. There's my lone nut analogy. Hopefully that made sense. And then one of the things I wanted to state here was I wanted to end with a quote from Hadil. So this is something you said in a video earlier this month, I believe. And one of the things you said here is, it's finally time that someone hears us out and sees that we've been struggling and trying to be vocal about it. But everyone, sorry, everyone keeps turning us down and denying it. So I'm glad that the higher ups are finally doing something about it. And the thing I want to say about that is that like, yeah, I know what you're referring to, like school board members, assembly members, the state, obviously that yes, they should be doing something about it. But the one thought I want to leave with you is like the real power is in you. The real power is in the female athletes, in my opinion, because every time you use your voice, your team takes a forfeit or other teams have to forfeit to you. Like, okay, you are now calling attention to this matter. And that's to me where the real power is at. The real power is when another team shows up to play, but there's the other team's forfeit. And now everyone's got to be talking about it. It's on the news. It's becoming an issue. That's where the power is at. Because I'm on the school board. I tell people all the time, like, don't ever expect an elected official to do something for you you're not willing to do for yourself. If you're not willing to come to public comment and talk about that or post about it on social media, don't expect someone else to go doing it for you. Like, and so you guys fighting your own fight. I mean, that's the first step. That's where the true 100 and the real power is at. You got to force the politician's hand to be like, hey, there's an issue. And if you're just going to go along to get along, then yeah, you're going to get what you're going to get, and nothing's going to change. And then the last thing I wanted to end with, and then I'm going to give you guys the last word to say whatever you want, is something that just happened on Friday, and I think kind of ties this whole thing together. Hopefully, we'll see how this goes. And so I was driving home with Sonja on Friday. I was driving her back from her dinner thing in Modesto for running for SPI, and she was on the phone on speakerphone with her daughter Brooke, I believe, and her daughter Brooke was asking Sonja, "Hey, when are you?" Asking her mom, "When are you going to be home again?" And Sonja was like, "Well, I'm going to be home tomorrow, but it's only going to be for like 10 minutes, and then I got to leave again. I'll be gone for another few days or whatever it is." And the daughter was asking, "Can you make me guacamole?" And Sonja was like, "Oh, well, I mean, if you have the avocados there and you have the onions there, maybe I can make the guacamole." And it made me sad. It kind of broke my heart at the time, like to hear that, because like Sonja had already been gone. She's gonna be gone again. And like, okay, that's obviously I have a dad. I'm a dad. I have kids in soccer, and so like I know, okay, that's time that she's not with her kids, not in soccer, not making guacamole, not spending family time, etc., whatever. And what I thought about it was like, okay, well, why? Like, why is it that she go through all this trouble of going to all these meetings and going to these conventions things to go talk to people and gonna miss out on making guacamole for her daughter? And like the answer that I came up with in my head was like, well, the why is right here. The why is looking me right in the face. It's you three girls. You're the why. It's you three girls. It's all the other girls that are in the same situation that are afraid to stand up, that aren't going to stand up. It's all the girls that'll be coming in the future that want to play girls sports and have a fair playing field. That's the why. It's her daughters. It's your guys' future daughters. That's the why. And so I thought that kind of somewhat tied it together of like, that's why she's doing what she's doing. That's why you're doing what you're doing. And that's why I wanted to have this discussion and have this podcast, is because I care about what you're doing. I don't have any daughters. I have three boys. And someone brought that up the other day. They're like, "Matt, you don't even have any girls. Like, why are you always talking about it? Why are you always doing it?" But it doesn't matter. It doesn't. I don't have any daughters. Who cares? They're going to have daughters. I know a girl right there. I know that. I know these three girls. Like, it doesn't matter if it directly affects me or not. It affects you. So it matters.
Matt,
So
I'm going to interrupt you because
please.
you're raising three boys that will never do these things to these girls. Okay. So it does matter. You are raising
Yeah.
really strong men who would never, ever do this. So we need parents like you. So do not undermine your ability to make change, because that's three more boys that will never harm girls because they've been raised and they've been given the right tools, not to do these things to others. So don't undermine that.
Well, thank you. All right, so that's my rant there. I'm going to end with, and then I want to give it to you, girls. To need the last words from Sonja and then Aaron, and then I'd like to give the girls the last word on final statement.
So my last words, I always go back to Isaiah 6:8. I always have this vision that, when things get rough, we can complain. And obviously for me, God is my father. And sometimes I'm like, "Lord, I'm tired," or maybe I want to go home and make guacamole, and I have that guilt of not doing those things or whatever it may have been. And then I think of Isaiah 6:8, and I think of Isaiah reaching out, "Lord, send me, Lord, send me, like, send me, please." Like, because at the end of the day, like, if it's not us, then it's who, right? And if we give God our yes and he's sending you, that's a blessing. It's a blessing for you guys to be able to stand up and be the voice for so many girls who are afraid. I mean, they're trying to make an example. And when I say that the enemy is trying to make an example of you so nobody else does what you do, there's a reason for that. You're over the target. You're doing the right thing. It's not easy to do the right thing. We see that over and over in history. But I do say to people, give God your yes every single day, because everybody has a part in this and everybody could be helping with solving the problem here, especially in California. Do not give up hope. Our hope obviously lies with our Father, but at the end of the day, don't give up hope. If we give up hope, we serve our children, this generation, on a silver platter to something that's trying to destroy them. And I refuse to do that because, look, my daughters know why I fight. And they also give me encouragement when I'm feeling guilty. But that encouragement is because God is also speaking through them at the times that I need that just encouragement to be going, going, going. But I am one person in this big fight alongside all of you. I keep telling people all across California, link arms, give God your yes, fight the good fight. The number one thing that I know before, I ask God before he takes me up to heaven is please solve this. Please solve this and please use me every single day. Wherever you want me for this fight, take me. And I'll be completely honest, state superintendent, the reason why I want to be there is the first action item is to make sure school districts are following federal law. That is the first item. People ask me, what's your first item? It's to protect our girls. And I mean that with all my heart, because that is something that is so important, and it definitely will trickle down on the rest of everything. But do not give up hope. You girls, I love you. I have your back. And if you're ever feeling like just one of those moments, trust me, I feel them, so I can relate to you. And I'm an adult and I don't want you guys to have to feel the same things us adults feel. You should have never had to do that. But also God's sharpening you through this. And I can just imagine the mothers you're going to be one day. Amazing, blessing. So keep fighting. You got so many of us in front of you and also on the side of you. So just keep going, and God will provide, because when we celebrate, it's going to be amazing and it's going to be history changing, and it's going to be because of you guys. So thank you for all that you do. Thank you to all the girls. And just remember, if you're suffering, just reach out to somebody. There's many of us who have been in this fight, and we're just waiting for your inbox, right? Just so we can link you with resources. I cannot say enough about advocates for faith and freedom. I, without hesitation, send people who are experiencing this exact thing to them, because I can rest knowing that they're in good hands at that point. They have good legal representation that will not give up on them. And I'm telling you, God's building a rock star team to fight this fight for our girls.
Thank you. Erin, anything you'd like to end with?
The only thing standing in the way of injustice is courage. And these women on this podcast are so filled with courage. You've inspired me, you've inspired the country, and you are making a difference. So thank you.
Thank you. Madison, Alyssa, Hadil, anything you'd like to end with? Any advice, any last words?
It does get lonely, like Sonja said, but I'm glad to keep fighting this fight because I know it's right, and not just for us, but like you said, one day we can be mothers, we will be mothers. I have nieces and nephews. I don't want them going through this situation, and it was so sad going through it myself. I can't imagine someone else who I love going through it again. Like I remember my senior night, I was texting um Julianne, our other attorney. I'm crying. Like during lunch. I'm crying. They say I can't play during my senior night, and she just was full of so much love. And honestly, there's so much love around us. It's okay to let our guard down every once in a while and show us that like we're sad. This is something that we did go through, and it's okay because we have a lot of people who are here to support us. Alyssa and Maribel's family and Maddie's family, like they've shown me so much support, and I probably wouldn't have been able to do it by myself because, I don't like being alone. But you see, we have people who love you and love us, and anyone who's going through this should ask for help, and get the help that they need because it is something serious, even if we just say, oh, it was normal to us, even if we were brainwashed, it's okay to say that it's not okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Alyssa, Madison.
want to say thank you guys for coming out and trying to advocate for us as well. I mean, it hasn't been easy, but yeah, I just want to thank you guys, and I'm gonna keep fighting.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say at times it can get hard, but um it's reassuring knowing that we're fighting for the right thing and we're standing up for what's right.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate it very much. And I know we'll cross paths again. I look forward to seeing you again. I got my bracelet from when we met at CIF, and I'll keep supporting you any way I can. And I appreciate your bravery to speak out, and thank you for all you're doing. And I know we'll see each other again.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right. Thank you.